Hi, Tom Isaac here again. We're continuing on in the next step of our tax return assignment. So we've already gone through and there was the first video about the overview, which kind of takes you through the how do you deal with all the files and how do you manage to be able to use the fillable PDF forms in the Adobe Acrobat Reader. And then we had the first one on going through and completing Schedule 1. So now we're going to look at the next step. So we've gone through all the stuff of dealing with the files, tax form Schedule 1, and if you follow down on the directions which I've given you, the next step is going to be to complete part of, not all of, but part of tax form 1040. And so what we're going to do is we're going to talk about this. We're going to be able to go up to a point, and then we're going to have to stop because we're going to have to go over to Schedule A, and then we'll come back and finalize up to 1040. So this is on this next part here on tax form 1040 and how to do that. So going over here to our tax form 1040, this is what the tax form 1040 looks like. And we're going to go through and complete all of this down to this part right here, line 11 on your adjusted gross income. So this is pretty straightforward, but if you have a question on any part of this, you can always go to the instructions for 1040. So the instructions for 1040 are going to start right out here. And as I said, it's hundreds of pages long, and you're going to need some parts of this. But if you have any questions about how to fill any of this out, you can go through and follow these IRS instructions, and they are in hideous detail to be able to get you through. So here's our form 1040. We're going to go through again. You just put your name. I don't need your address. I don't really care where you live. Please don't put your social security number in. You don't need that. Most of you are probably going to be filing single, but if you're not, file appropriately. So if you're married, filing jointly, or married, filing together, or whatever your case may be, you're going to go ahead and check the appropriate box here. Again, most of you aren't going to have anything in terms of the disposition of large amounts of digital assets. I would like you to consider that you are not the dependent of someone else. So you're just going to put someone else can claim you. You're going to leave all these blanks in here. If you have children, please just go through and just say child 1, child 2, child 3. Don't put in social security numbers. You can just put child. That's all I need. But you're really going to start down here in line 1 where we fill out the amounts from W-2s. Now, get W-2s you're going to get from your personal life map portfolio project. There is in this tax statements tab your W-2 right there. In this case, I have box 1 has $52,000 in it. That comes from worksheet number 4. So I'm just going to come right here to 1A and fill in the amount for my W-2s. That's $52,000. And then you're going to go through most of these other things you're not likely to have. Tip income not reported in line 1A. That assumes that you're very honest about your tip income and you'd report any cash tips that you get in there. And you'd go all the way down here until you get down to line 2. So you notice down here we have taxable interest and ordinary dividends. I'm assuming no one is going to have pensions, annuities, Social Security benefits, or IRA distributions. You're going to really be focusing on these two things, line 2B, taxable interest, and line 3B, ordinary dividends. So that's the interest and dividends that you earn on your investments. Where does that come from? That's going to come from what is a 1099 DIV for dividends and 1099 INT for interest. Where do these numbers come from? They come from the interest and dividends that you reported in your worksheet 13. So worksheet 13, we have an investment portfolio earning a rate of return. that's going to generate taxable returns. The stocks and stock funds, large cap, small cap, and international stocks, will contribute to dividends, and then the bonds and cash will contribute to interest. So that's where those numbers come from. Added together, 133.80 on my particular example, that's the sum total of this 122 and $11, and that's how you end up with the interest and dividend income. So again, interest, $11.40, and the dividends, $122.40. They're going to go right in here in my Form 1040. So in this case, the interest, $11.40, and the dividends was $122.40. Now, by the way, this fillable PDF does not do the math for you. You still have to do the math. So it's not going to add it up for you. We don't have anything else in lines 4, 5, or 6. Capital gains, we're not going to talk about any capital gains or losses at this point because we're not using Schedule D, so we're going to skip that. And then we get to the two things that are important to us in terms of what we did with Schedule Schedule 1. So additional income from Schedule 1, line 10. So if you remember in the video that we showed for Schedule 1, line 10 was the sum total of additional income. So we come back here to Schedule 1, there's line 10, and we had $5,000 in gig work and $1,000 in rental income, which gave us $6,000. You notice this is Schedule 1, line 10 has, in my example here, $6,000. That's going to come over here to line 8. So I'm going to put $6,000 here. So now I've got to go through and add all of them up. So I've got 52,000 plus 6,000 gets me to 100. So it gets me to 58,000, and then add in the interest and dividends. I've got $58,133.80. So any place that it asks you to add what lines up, you have to do that. And then adjustments to income from Schedule 1, line 26. Again, back to Schedule 1. Here's that line 26. We have $9,780. That's adjustments to income, and that's going to come back over here to line 10. So 9780, that's what I have here. And again, it doesn't do the math for you, so it doesn't matter if you put commas in, and it doesn't matter if you put the decimals in or not, because it's not doing the math. Subtract line 10 from line 9. This is my adjusted gross income. So use your calculator and just go ahead and subtract that out. In this case, let me get my calculator out, and I'm going to go ahead and calculate this out. So I have $58,133.80 minus those adjustments to income, 9780, and I get my adjusted gross income of $48,353.80. That's commonly referred to as AGI. So what we've done is we've gone through and finished the first part. What is my total income? Now we have to get to deductions. Deductions are handled in Schedule A. And so what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to stop now on Schedule 1. I'm going to go ahead and save this. And you can just save it wherever you're going to be saving it. So in my particular case, I save it to my OneDrive, and I'm just going to put it in my sample. For me, you can put this in anywhere that you want to, and I'm going to go ahead and save this in here, overwrite my existing one, and there's my partially completed Schedule 1. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go to the next step, which is dealing with Schedule A. So what are we doing in Schedule A? We're looking at this question for line 12. Do we take the standard deduction or do we itemize our deductions? So this is the ability to be able to reduce your taxable income by having things that the government says we're going to permit you to be able to deduct. And the things that you're permitted to be able to deduct include my state income taxes paid, property taxes paid, uh, interest on a residential mortgage, a few things like that. And we're going to go through all those things in Schedule A. But the question that we're going to try to answer is, which do we want to take? Do we want to take the standard deduction or an itemized deduction? And we're going to take whichever one is bigger. So you'll notice that to the left of line 12 here, there's this little bubble, and it says you're going to take the standard deduction, single or married filing separately, of $13,850, or you're going to take the itemized deduction from Schedule A if that's larger. We don't know. So we have to go through and do Schedule A to figure out whether or not our itemized deductions are larger or smaller than the standard deduction. So save this file, set it aside for now, go on to the next video about Schedule A, and then we're going to come back to the last video on calculating out our final 1040.